to imagine, or it is not possible to imagine. So by now we are trying to stay focused, and we are focused. The rescue operation, the injured, and that is our focus by now, and then we'll take the other things step by step.
Government spokesman Hans Christian Andersen speaking to Ross a few moments ago. You're watching this special rolling coverage on BBC World News of a huge blast in Norway, in the Norwegian capital Oslo, with Puna Galusi and me, Tim Wilcox. Let's just take you to the latest pictures that have come in. We understand that at least 2 people have been killed in this blast, which happened about 3:30 this afternoon. It's in the government quarter of Oslo. The Prime Minister, Jens Stoltenberg, his office in a 17-storey building there. Also VG, a large Norwegian tabloid as well. 2 people, we understand, killed, several wounded.
And the details are sketchy. We are getting more details every second of the events that are happening. As you can see, a lot of damage, though, in that neighbouring area. A lot of windows blown out as well. Eyewitnesses contacting us at the BBC, talking about what happened. It does appear that it is a car bomb, although the Norwegian Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg says it is too early to say if the blast was a terrorist attack. Now, Norway, Oslo itself, a stranger really to any sort of terrorist attacks at all. This is quite possibly one of the first attacks in decades here, if indeed it is the case. But there have been problems with Al-Qaeda linked people in the past year. Last year, 3 people were arrested and charged with links to Al-Qaeda. And also there is a cleric at the moment, an Iraqi-born cleric, a man called Mullah Kreka of the Ansar al-Islam party, who, when threatened with deporting, saying that he would harm and attack Norwegian politicians. Let's just bring you the latest, this report by Emma Jane Kirby.
Panic as a huge explosion rocks Oslo. The streets outside the government headquarters littered with glass and fallen masonry. The high-rise building that houses the Prime Minister's office was badly damaged. Nearby, the oil ministry was on fire. Several people are thought to have been hurt, but the Prime Minister himself is safe. Norwegian television reports at least 1 person has been killed.
The damage is mainly from the side I'm on is to glass, so a lot of windows have been blown out. I mean, even in some quite strange places like church clocks, and yeah, strangely enough, others have remained completely intact. So I think now the police are getting around to sealing off streets where there is a danger of falling glass.
Police rushed in to secure the area. So far, the authorities won't give a cause of the blast, but many witnesses say they think it was a car bomb. In the past, Norway has found itself the focus of Al-Qaeda threats because of its involvement in the war in Afghanistan. The Norwegian government, however, has made no comment, and so far, no group has admitted an attack. Whatever has happened here, it's left the people of Oslo extremely frightened. Emma Jane Kirby, BBC News.
Well, Oslo police are holding a press conference at the moment. We can take you there now. We're just waiting actually for a translation to come through on that. But the wires are saying that police have confirmed that 2 people have been killed in this blast and 15 injured. Those are the latest figures from the Norwegian police in Oslo in the last few minutes. We'll try and get some translation on that as soon as we can. In the meantime, let's speak to our security correspondent, Gordon Carrera. Gordon, it looks a huge blast.
Yes, it does. It looks like a car bomb. I mean, that's not been confirmed, we should say, but that is visually what it looks like and what you'd expect from a car bomb, with those windows blown out. I mean, that is very suggestive of the type of blast you get from...
And also there's pictures of a wrecked car on the side.
Of a wrecked car, exactly. And so I think those are what all the indications are, but as you said, we don't know for sure yet.
But Norway itself really has not had any recent history of terrorist attacks. Why, if it were a terrorist attack, would it be a target?
Well, there's a few theories and a few possibilities. They range from the fact that, for instance, some of the newspapers there have reprinted the cartoons, these Danish cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, which have led to outrage in certain quarters and threats, for instance, instance, in Denmark particularly. Also, Norway has had troops on the ground in Afghanistan. It's been involved in the operation with Libya. There have been arrests of cells in Norway in the past, for instance, who were planning to attack in other countries, including in other Scandinavian countries. So there have been little threads suggesting that it could be a target. But it's not a country which, for instance, has high security. I've been in Oslo and been in some of those government buildings to interview ministers, and there's very little security. You wouldn't have, for instance, what you'd see in London, that the standoff protection against car bombs, against vehicles getting so close that you might have in other cities.
Another line just coming out of that press conference, which we're still waiting for translation on, but police have confirmed the explosion was caused by one or more bombs, because certainly some news agencies in Oslo were saying that they heard more than one blast. 2 confirmed dead, 15 injured.
There was a point when they said there might be actually other bombs that they've heard about and they thought there might be exploding, but at the same time it is a very quiet week and the government is closed. Most of the city is practically dead, the centre of the city today.
Well, that's right, and that's also one of the strange things about it, is it wasn't really timed at a point where you'd have maximum amount of people at some of these government buildings on a Friday afternoon on some kind of public holiday there. So that is again slightly unusual and might suggest a rushed planning or something unusual about it, and that's reflected that so far we haven't had a high casualty count. Now, that of course could change, but looking at the size of the blast, you'd actually have expected more casualties in a crowded city centre than we've heard so far. That of course could change.
Although at the same time the security would be more lax on a quieter holiday.
Yeah, that's possible as well, but as I said, having been there, the security is not so intense. I mean, you'd get searched if you went into a government building, but you wouldn't have the kind of the bollards, the prevention of vehicles going up close to government buildings you might have, for instance, in a city like London or in Washington DC or somewhere like that in other capitals.
Norwegian Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg has been speaking on Norwegian television in a phone call. He repeated it was too early to say if this blast was a terrorist attack. He wouldn't say, though, where he was. Police had advised him not to say where he was speaking from. Gordon Carrera, our security correspondent, just following events for us here in the newsroom as we watch the latest pictures coming in from Oslo, the Norwegian capital. 2 dead, 15 injured. Police have confirmed 1 or more bombs. The Prime Minister, whose 17-storey building, his office is in that 17-storey building in the government quarter here, is safe, as indeed are all the other cabinet ministers in this centre-left coalition government. But Gordon Carrera, our security correspondent, just talking about the reasons why, if this is proved to be a terrorist attack, Norway would be targeted. Tell us more, Gordon, about Mullah Krekar of the Ansar al-Islam party, who has made threats on international media were he to be extradited.
Well, Mullah Krekar, we don't know that there is definitely any link to Mullah Krekar, but that would be one of the theories, one of the possibilities. He was the original spiritual leader of Ansar al-Islam, a very violent radical offshoot group which was housed in the kind of Kurdish region of northern Iraq and had a history of links to al-Qaeda. He was in Norway and had been in Norway, for instance, before the Iraq War, and the Norwegians have been wanting to extradite him, to deport him on national security grounds because he's seen as a threat to security of Norway to Iraq. There'd been issues about guarantees of his treatment when he got to Iraq, which had held up that process for years. I mean, it's a process that has been going on for years, but he and his supporters, and he himself, had warned of retaliation and reprisals if he was sent. So we don't know if there's a link to that, but that is one of the theories, I suppose, which would be in the mix for why Norway could be a target, whether his supporters might have carried this out.
The Prime Minister has also just spoken to the second channel of television in Norway and said he just wants to confirm that all the cabinet ministers in the centre-left coalition government seem to be safe after the blast has ripped through. He hasn't said where he's talking from, probably for safety reasons, but apparently it hasn't harmed anyone from the government. No, and
it may be that it blew out the windows, but if those people were inside, the less chance of them being injured. They may not have been in the buildings because of the time of day and what was happening today. No sign of them being injured. What we don't know is how many people were on the streets around, because that blast was pretty big if you look at the pictures.
And just actually, Gordon, you can see VG there. That is the big tabloid, Norway's big tabloid newspaper, part of that building as well. And the oil ministry just a few, well, in that same area, I think, isn't it, in the government quarter of Oslo.
And typically with these kind of blasts, you would get a lot of people injured by the falling glass. You would get, maybe only those who are in the immediate vicinity would be hurt by the blast itself. But so then you would get the windows in quite a large area can be shattered by a big blast like this. And then it's the falling glass which can often inflict pretty horrendous injuries on people. We saw that in some other terrorist attacks.
Yeah, and including in London as well, down at Canary Wharf, when people were killed by falling glass. So it seems as if these pictures were taken really very quickly after the blast, because people are walking around there, aren't they?
Well, that's right. It's not been cordoned off, and there doesn't appear to be much sign in these of emergency service activity. So you would assume, therefore, that they were taken pretty soon afterwards.
And let's go to former photojournalist Andreas Lund, who was sitting in a cafe a few hundred meters away when the blast happened. He went into the blast site to help the injured, and he took these photographs that you can see now.
Hello.
On the phone now, we can talk to him. Andreas Lund, if you can hear us, tell us what you saw when you went closer to the event to take photographs.
I can hear you, but I didn't hear your question.
Tell us what you saw when you went closer to the scene of the explosion today to take the pictures you took.
First I was helping a person, a girl on the ground, and when she was safe with paramedics, I started to walk towards the Prime Minister's office. And on the one side of the building, all the windows are blown out, but it's not like total destroyed. But I went with some former colleagues, photographers, and we came around the corner and to the other side of the building, and there it just looks like it was destruction. Glass and rubble in the streets, fire, smoke, several dead people in the street, injured people, and also a car standing on its side, probably blown up.
How severe were the injuries of the people you saw and helped?
The girl I helped, she was bleeding from her head, but it was nothing serious. She was in shock. The people who was on the other side of the building where the most of the destruction was, they were also taken care of, and I don't know how they were, but they were conscious. One of the dead people was just blown to pieces, and the other one, two dead people. Just the total tragedy.
I guess there was a lot of shattered glass falling all around from the buildings at the time of the explosion. Were there injuries from the blast or just from the glass breaking all around you?
I suspect that the girl I was one of several people to take care of, that she had been hit by glass in her head, yeah.
Andreas Lund, it's Tim Wilcox alongside Puna here in the studio as well. Just looking at the pictures in the immediate aftermath, people seemed very calm. Was that because they were shocked, or were people reacting like that?
It was very calm indeed. There was no panic, anything. So it was a strange sensation, strange feeling to be there, because everything was very, very calm. No screaming, no loud noises, just it was very quiet.
But now, as this news filters through, a sense of shock on the streets. I mean, something like this, as far as I can remember, you can tell me better than I can, it has never happened before, has it, in Norway? Certainly not in Oslo.
No, we live in a very quiet part of the world, and this is the first time anything like this had happened here.
So what is the situation now? Are police clearing the area? Has the area been sealed? Because we're getting reports from the police press conference, which is carrying on at the moment, that bomb experts are in the area, and there is an unknown package, for example, at TV2 in Karl Johan Gata.
Yeah, I was in the area, and the police came running after a while and told us to leave the area because they were afraid it could be another charge somewhere in the area. So I just left and I walked home, and I suppose all the subways are shut down, so there's a lot of people in the streets on my way home. But everything was very quiet. People were standing outside TV2, as you said, and looking at watching TV to try to find out what had happened.
People are now being asked to leave Oslo. That is the appeal by the police. Just describe for us, just take us back to 3:30 in the afternoon, though. How many people were out on the streets in this government quarter?
At the time when the explosion happened?
Exactly.
I wouldn't know because I was sitting in a cafe nearby. So I don't know how many people were there. It's summertime and the people are on vacation, so I don't know.
Andreas,
normally it would be a crowded area.
It was said that the explosion was very loud and a huge smoke, and also a smell of sulfur took over all the area around there. How did you hear it?
I was sitting in the cafe and I just heard a large boom, and I just ran out, and I kind of instinctively understood that something had happened somewhere. My first thought was that maybe some kind of scaffolding or something had fallen down on the street. I don't know, some gas explosion. I don't know. But then people started to come running against me, and I just continued towards VG, which is Norway's largest tabloid newspaper. And I saw the glass had been blown out, and I thought maybe someone had attacked the newspaper or something like that. And that's where I saw the girl that was injured, so I stopped to help her. And then I heard people say afterwards that it was actually the Prime Minister's office that had been attacked. So I continued in that direction.
Thank you, Andreas Lund, for speaking to us.
Let's just bring you an update from the police press conference, which is continuing at the moment before we speak to somebody else. 2 dead, 15 injured. Police are asking people to leave central Oslo and avoid large gatherings. They're appealing to people to go home calmly. Now, bomb experts are on the scene. There is a possibility that there are more explosive devices. There's an unknown package, for example, at a TV station, TV2. Police have said they don't know what kind of explosives were used. They believe a vehicle was used. We've seen pictures of a car blown on its side in some of the footage we're seeing now. No known motive for the bomb attack, they say, but they've heard speculation, but can't confirm anything. Let's speak now to Salman Ahmad, Ahmad Khan, an engineer, who joins us on the phone. How close were you to this blast when it happened?
I was sitting in my office, and we were doing our work as usual. When we suddenly heard a huge blast. Initially, we didn't know what happened. We thought something, like a cylinder exploded or something fell down. So, we went up to see what's up. And the fire alarm started to go off, and we saw, when we looked out of the windows, we saw a lot of windows and glasses shattered outside on the road, and people standing in chaos. Nobody actually knew what happened.
Was your office, did you lose the windows in your office, or was your office okay?
My office shook like an earthquake, and initially we had no idea what happened, but it was really very huge.
What did you do when you got outside? What did you see?
We went outside and we saw a lot of people standing around, and they were in a state of chaos, and they didn't know what happened. Everybody wanted to know what happened. Then when we wanted to go close to that place where it happened, because everybody was giving his own conclusions, so suddenly a lot of people started to run away from that building, from the site. So probably this was because the police said they had some unidentified object over there or something.
Did you see people who had been caught up in this blast?
Yeah, some people were injured, and some people were crying, and was not a good scene. And most of the people were crying because of the chaos and the shock they got. And you could see a lot of stuff outside the building, like thrown away because of the explosion. And we could smell gunpowder in the air, and then we evacuated that area because of the threat.
How busy was this area at 3:30? I mean, was this a busy time of the afternoon with a lot of people there, and this bomb, which the police have now confirmed, one or more devices? I mean, that would have been one of the most devastating times of the day to have set it off.
Honestly, I'm not sure what kind of timing it would be, but it was Friday, and this is not one of the peak times when people are outside on the streets. Many people are away on the summer vacations as well. But as we understood that this was targeted it happened near the government building where the Prime Minister was supposed to have a meeting or something.
Police have just appealed to people to stay indoors. If you're at a hotel room or a flat, please stay inside. The threat level has been raised. How do you feel? Is there a sense of shock there today amongst you and your family and your friends about what has happened today?
Yes, of course. There is a sense of shock because Oslo is a very, Norway especially is a very calm place, and it's really lovable living here. Lovely living here. So I got calls from a lot of my friends and my family back home, and we all were in a state of chaos. I mean, initially we didn't know what happened, but later on, we started to shake.
Yeah, I mean, nobody has claimed responsibility for this, but how much of a factor is the idea of Islamic terrorism? Nobody's confirmed that this is the case, but is this something that is discussed by Norwegians, particularly given the Norwegian presence in Afghanistan as part of the NATO forces there, and indeed I think Norwegian aircraft used in the bombing raids in Libya?
Honestly, I have no such idea. I can't say anything about it. It could be something totally different. It could be just a gas cylinder blown up. But we don't know. I mean, I can't say anything.
It would be a very big gas cylinder, looking at the pictures here, actually, I think, wouldn't it?
Yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, I can't say anything about this. I mean, that would be... I mean, we don't know complete information, and I'm myself, following the news. So I wouldn't be able to say anything about that.
OK, all right. And just one other thing. The police have just saying that they're mobilising all staff, many coming back from holiday to deal with the situation. Also not ruling out that this was by...